January 1942, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios, Culver City, California. A soundstage on a Monday morning. It's cold outside. The kind of California winter morning where the air is crisp and the sky is clear and you can see your breath just slightly when you exhale. Inside the soundstage, it was warm. The lights were already on. Those enormous Technicolor lights that heated everything. The crew was setting up, moving equipment, adjusting cameras, preparing for the first day of production on a new film, Woman of the Year, a romantic comedy about a political columnist and a sports reporter who fall in love despite being complete opposites. And on that soundstage, on that January morning, two people were about to meet for the first time. Two of the greatest actors who ever lived. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. They didn't know it yet, but this meeting would change both their lives. It would become one of the great love stories of Hollywood, a love that would last 25 years, through 9 films together, through joy and pain and secrecy and devotion, until death, literally until the very end. Welcome to Hollywood Insomniac, soft stories for sleepless nights. Maybe dim those lights now. Get comfortable, settle in. Because we're about to take a journey. A gentle journey. A romantic journey. Back to 1942. Back to that soundstage. Back to the moment when Kate met Spencer. When two forces of nature collided. When lightning struck. When everything changed. But before we get to that meeting, we need to understand who they were, where they came from, what they'd been through. Because the story of Kate and Spencer isn't just about that first meeting. It's about two complete people, two complicated people, two damaged people, finding each other, choosing each other, and staying together against all odds, through everything, for the rest of their lives. Chapter 1. Katharine the Rebel, Hartford, Connecticut. May 12, 1907. Katharine Hepburn was born into a family unlike any other. Her father, Dr. Thomas Hepburn, was a urologist, a progressive physician who fought against Victorian taboos, who spoke openly about venereal disease at a time when such things weren't discussed in polite society, who believed in science and reason and education above all else. Her mother, Catherine Martha Houghton, was a suffragette, a fighter for women's rights. She marched, she protested, she spoke at rallies, she demanded the vote. She refused to accept that women were less than men, that they should be silent, submissive, decorative. She was fierce, independent, uncompromising, and their daughter Kate, named after her mother, she absorbed all of it, the progressive values, the independence, the refusal to conform. From her earliest days, Kate was different, unusual, unconventional. She climbed trees, refused to wear dresses unless forced, cut her hair short, called herself Jimmy for years, played sports with the boys, spoke her mind, asked questions, challenged authority. She was brilliant, headstrong, difficult, exactly what her parents encouraged her to be. The Hepburn household was intellectual, stimulating, intense. There were 6 children total. Kate was the second. They debated at dinner, discussed politics, philosophy, science. Nothing was off limits. Nothing was too controversial to examine. They were taught to think, to question, to never accept things just because that's how they'd always been. But there was tragedy, too. When Kate was 14, her beloved older brother Tom died, hanged himself in the attic, or it appeared that way. Kate found him. The image haunted her for the rest of her life. The brother she'd adored, gone. Just like that. They said suicide, but maybe it was an accident, a prank gone wrong. Nobody ever really knew. After Tom's death, Kate withdrew, became even more rebellious, even more determined to live life on her own terms. She'd been close to her brother. Losing him changed her, hardened something, made her more fierce, more independent, more unwilling to be controlled by anyone or anything. She went to Bryn Mawr College, one of the Seven Sisters, an elite women's college. She studied history and philosophy, but really she studied theater, acting, performance. That's what she loved, what she wanted, what she was born to do. After graduation in 1928, she moved to New York to pursue acting. Her family was horrified. Actresses were considered barely respectable, just above prostitutes in social standing. But Kate didn't care. She never cared what people thought. That was her superpower, and her curse. She struggled at first, got roles, lost roles, was fired multiple times for being difficult, for not taking direction, for arguing with directors, for thinking she knew better, which she often did. But that didn't make her easy to work with, didn't make people want to hire her. She married young in 1928 to Ludlow Ogden Smith, a socialite, a good man, but wrong for her. She was too independent, too driven, too focused on her career. The marriage lasted 6 years on paper, but really it was over almost immediately. They divorced in 1934. She never married again, never wanted to. Marriage felt like a trap, a cage, a limitation. She'd rather be alone than constrained. In 1932, everything changed. She was cast in a Broadway play, The Warrior's Husband. She played a warrior woman, an Amazon, athletic, fierce, unconventional. It was perfect for her. She was a sensation. Critics loved her, audiences loved her. Hollywood noticed. RKO Pictures brought her to Los Angeles for a screen test, July 1932. She was nervous, excited. This was her chance, her opportunity, to become a movie star, to prove everyone wrong, to succeed on her own terms. The screen test was a disaster, at least that's what they said. Her voice was too shrill, too Eastern, too affected. Her look was too unusual, too angular, too masculine. She had no sex appeal, no glamour, no star quality. The executives watched the test and shook their heads. This woman had no future in pictures. But David Selznick saw something the others missed, a quality, a presence, an intelligence. He fought for her, convinced RKO to take a chance. They cast her in A Bill of Divorcement opposite John Barrymore. Her first film, released December 1932. It was a hit. Kate was extraordinary, natural, real, different from every other actress in Hollywood. She didn't simper, didn't play coy, didn't use her sexuality. She just acted, brilliantly, honestly, powerfully. Her next film was Morning Glory. She played an aspiring actress, ambitious, naive, determined. It was Kate playing a version of herself, and she won the Academy Award for Best Actress, 1934, her first Oscar. She was 26 years old, on top of the world, a star, a success, vindicated. But Hollywood didn't know what to do with her. She was too different, too unconventional, too difficult. She wore pants, refused makeup when not filming, didn't give interviews, didn't play the publicity game, didn't date the right men, didn't behave like a movie star should. She made film after film. Some were good, some were terrible. And gradually, audiences stopped coming, stopped caring. By 1938, she was labeled box office poison by theater owners. Her films weren't making money. Studios didn't want her. She was too risky, too uncommercial, too Kate. So she left, went back to New York, to theater, where she was respected, valued, where her talent mattered more than her box office appeal. She starred in The Philadelphia Story on Broadway, a comedy written specifically for her, about a wealthy socialite learning to be human. It was a triumph, a smash hit, proof she was still a star, still relevant, Still Kate. She was smart, bought the film rights to the play, controlled her own destiny, took it to MGM, negotiated her own deal, chose her own co-stars, Cary Grant and James Stewart. The 1940 film was a massive success. Kate was back, bigger than ever, on her own terms, as always. By 1942, she was 34 years old, established, powerful, independent. She'd won an Oscar. She'd survived being labeled box office poison. She'd engineered her own comeback. She'd proven everyone wrong, again. She was Katharine Hepburn, unique, uncompromising, unforgettable, and she was about to meet the love of her life. Chapter 2. Spencer, the Broken Star. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, April 5th, 1900. Spencer Bonaventure. Tracy was born into a working-class Irish Catholic family. His father, John, was a truck salesman. His mother, Carrie, was devout, religious, strict. They weren't wealthy, weren't educated, but they worked hard, valued integrity, faith, family. Spencer was trouble from the start, wild, rebellious. He got kicked out of multiple schools, couldn't sit still, couldn't follow rules, couldn't keep quiet. He was smart but unfocused, energetic but directionless. His parents didn't know what to do with him. He joined the Navy at 17, 1917. World War I was raging. He wanted adventure, wanted to prove himself, wanted to be part of something bigger. But he never saw combat. The war ended before his ship deployed. He felt like he'd missed it, like he'd failed somehow. After the Navy, he drifted, tried different jobs, nothing stuck, until he discovered acting, almost by accident, took a class, did a play, and something clicked. Found something he was good at, something that channeled his energy, his intensity, his emotions, something that gave him purpose. He went to New York, studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, worked in theater, struggled, starved. But he was good, really good. Spencer had a natural quality, an honesty, a realness that you couldn't teach. You either had it or you didn't. Spencer had it. In 1923, he married Louise Treadwell, an actress, a good woman. They were young, in love, or thought they were. They had 2 children. John, born in 1924, deaf from birth, and Susie, born in 1932, healthy, normal. John's deafness devastated Spencer. He blamed himself, thought it was punishment for his sins, for his drinking, for his failures, for not being good enough. Catholic guilt ran deep in Spencer, shaped everything, tormented him. Louise devoted herself to John, to helping him, teaching him, fighting for him. She founded the John Tracy Clinic, a place to help deaf children and their families. It became her life's work, her purpose. She was extraordinary, selfless, strong, everything Spencer wasn't. Their marriage became a partnership, a arrangement. They loved each other, or had loved each other once. But passion faded, intimacy disappeared. They stayed together for the children, for appearances, for faith. Spencer was Catholic. Divorce was a sin, unthinkable, so they stayed married. But they weren't really together, not in any meaningful way. Hollywood found Spencer in 1930. Fox Pictures brought him west, put him in films, quick millions. She wanted a millionaire. Disorderly conduct, nothing special. He was good in them. But the films weren't. Fox didn't know how to use him, didn't understand what they had. In 1935, MGM signed him, the biggest studio in Hollywood, and they understood. They put him in quality pictures, important pictures, Fury, San Francisco, Captains Courageous. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1938 for Captains Courageous, playing a Portuguese fisherman, completely transforming himself, disappearing into the role. He won again in 1939 for Boys Town, playing Father Flanagan, a priest who helped troubled boys. 2 Oscars in 2 years. He was established now, a star, one of the best actors in Hollywood, reliable, talented, respected, but he was also tortured, drank heavily, disappeared on benders that would last days, sometimes weeks. The studio covered for him, enabled him, needed him too much to let him go. But everyone knew, everyone worried, Spencer was self-destructive, haunted, unable to forgive himself for John's deafness, for his failing marriage, for his sins. He had affairs with co-stars, with starlets, with women who worked at the studio. Nothing serious, nothing meaningful, just physical, just escape, just trying to feel something other than guilt and pain and self-loathing. Louise knew. She'd tolerated it. What choice did she have? Divorce was impossible. Spencer was the father of her children, her husband, for better or worse, mostly worse. But she'd made vows, Catholic vows. So she stayed, focused on John, on her work, on anything but her broken marriage. By 1942, Spencer was 41 years old, successful, miserable, drinking too much, working too much, hating himself too much, going through the motions, making movies, but inside dying, slowly, painfully, alone even when surrounded by people. He'd made 25 films for MGM and won 2 Oscars, was one of the most respected actors in Hollywood, and he couldn't have been more unhappy. And then he walked onto a soundstage on a Monday morning in January to start a new film, Woman of the Year, and everything changed. Chapter 3. The meeting. January 1942. The MGM soundstage, early morning. Spencer arrived first. He usually did. Professional, punctual, despite the drinking, despite the demons. When he was working, he was focused, disciplined. The work was sacred. The work mattered. The work was the only thing that made sense. The crew greeted him. Mr. Tracy. Good morning. He nodded, grunted hello, got his coffee, black, strong, looked at the set, the script, the day's work ahead, a romantic comedy, not his usual fare. He did dramas, heavy stuff, important stuff. But the studio wanted him to try comedy, wanted to see if he had range. He'd show them. His co-star was Katharine Hepburn. He knew of her. Everyone did. The eccentric New Englander, the pants-wearing rebel, the difficult one, the one who'd been box office poison and fought her way back. Talented, no question, but a pain in the ass. That's what people said. Opinionated, stubborn, difficult. It wasn't really his problem. He'd do his job, she'd do hers. They'd make the movie, then never work together again. That was fine with him. Around 9 o'clock she arrived. Katharine Hepburn, tall, slim, wearing pants, of course, and a collared shirt, no makeup. Hair pulled back, simple, natural, confident. She walked onto the set like she owned it, which in a way she did. This film was her project, her deal, her comeback. She spotted Spencer, walked over, extended her hand. Mr. Tracy, she said, that voice, Eastern, theatrical, distinctive. I'm Kate Hepburn. I'm so pleased to be working with you. Spencer looked at her, took her hand, felt something, a spark, a connection, something. Miss Hepburn, he said. His voice was rougher than hers, gravelly, real. Good to meet you. She looked down at him. She was 5'7". He was 5'10", but she was wearing heels. Flat heels, but still. She was at his eye level, maybe slightly taller. She smiled. I'm afraid I'm a little too tall for you, Mr. Tracy. He didn't smile back, just looked at her. Those eyes, sad eyes, haunted eyes, but kind eyes too. Don't worry, Miss Hepburn, he said. I'll cut you down to size. It was the beginning of everything. They rehearsed, ran through the scenes, the banter, the chemistry, and something was happening, something neither of them expected. They fit. Their rhythms matched. Their timing was perfect. They sparked off each other, made each other better, made each other laugh, made each other think. It was effortless, natural, real. The director, George Stevens, watched in amazement. This was magic, pure magic. You couldn't manufacture this, couldn't force it. Either actors had chemistry or they didn't. And these two, they had it in spades. Between takes, they talked, really talked. Not small talk, but real conversation. About acting, about life, about books and politics and ideas. Kate was brilliant, educated, well-read. Spencer was smart too, self-educated, thoughtful. They challenged each other, disagreed, debated, laughed. It was intoxicating. Spencer found himself looking forward to work, actually excited, for the first time in years. Kate made everything interesting, made him think, made him feel alive, not just going through the motions, but actually present, actually engaged, actually happy. Kate felt it too. This man, this broken, brilliant man, he was different from anyone she'd ever met. No pretension, no bullshit, just honest, real, vulnerable underneath the gruff exterior. She wanted to know him, really know him, wanted to understand what made him hurt, what made him drink, what made those eyes so sad. They started having lunch together, just the two of them, in his dressing room, away from everyone else, away from prying eyes and wagging tongues. They'd eat, talk, for hours sometimes, about everything, about nothing, about their pasts, their families, their failures, their fears. Spencer told her about John, his deaf son, the guilt he carried, the feeling that he'd failed as a father, that God was punishing him. Kate listened, didn't judge, didn't offer platitudes, just listened, really listened. And somehow that helped. Somehow that mattered. Kate told him about Tom, her brother, finding him dead, the nightmares, the guilt she carried too, different from Spencer's, but still there, still painful, still unresolved. Spencer understood, didn't try to fix it, didn't minimize it, just understood. And somehow that helped too. The filming continued, day after day, week after week, and they fell in love, not dramatically, not suddenly, but slowly, gradually, inevitably. Like water finding its level, like rivers flowing to the sea. It was natural, unavoidable. They tried to fight it, both of them. Spencer especially. He was married, Catholic, had children, had responsibilities. This was wrong, sinful, impossible. But he couldn't help it, couldn't stop it. Kate was like no one he'd ever known. Made him feel things he'd never felt. Made him want to be better. Kate knew it was complicated. Knew Spencer was married. Knew Louise existed. Knew this would be difficult. Messy. Painful. But she didn't care. She'd never followed rules. Never let other people's expectations control her life. Why start now? By the time filming wrapped in March, they were together. Not publicly, not officially, but together. In love, committed, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, all the vows Spencer had made to Louise. He was making them again, to Kate, in his heart, where it mattered, where it counted. Chapter 4. 25 years. Spencer never divorced Louise, never even asked. He was Catholic. Divorce was a sin. He couldn't do it, so he stayed married, on paper, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the church. But he lived with Kate. Not officially, not publicly, but practically, spiritually, in every way that mattered except legally. They were discreet, careful. This was the 1940s. Morality clauses in contracts. Public scandal meant career suicide. So they kept it private, secret, or as secret as anything could be in Hollywood. Everyone knew, but nobody talked about it. Not in print, not in public. The press respected privacy then, or at least pretended to. Louise knew too. Of course she knew. But what could she do? She had her sons, had her work, had her faith. Spencer still provided for her, still visited, still maintained appearances when necessary. And Kate was good for him, made him happy, made him drink less, made him want to live. How could Louise fight that? How could she object? She loved Spencer, wanted him happy, even if it wasn't with her. It was an arrangement, unusual, unconventional, but it worked for all of them. Spencer had Louise and Kate. Louise had her independence and her work. Kate had Spencer. Everyone got something. Everyone lost something. Everyone compromised. That's how real life worked. Messy, complicated, imperfect. Kate and Spencer made 9 films together over the years. Woman of the Year, Keeper of the Flame, Without Love, The Sea of Grass, State of the Union, Adam's Rib, Pat and Mike, Desk Set, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Each one captured their chemistry, their connection, their love. Everyone could see it on screen, that spark, that realness, that truth. They became Hollywood royalty, separately and together. Kate won more Oscars, 4 total, more than any other actress in history. Spencer was nominated 9 times, won twice. They were legends, icons, the best of the best. But their private life was quiet, simple, domestic. Kate cooked for Spencer. She learned how, for him. She'd never cooked before, never needed to. But Spencer liked home-cooked meals, simple food, meat and potatoes. So she learned, made him dinner, night after night, year after year, 25 years of dinners, 25 years of quiet evenings, 25 years of just being together. They'd argue about politics, about scripts, about everything, but they never stopped loving each other, never stopped choosing each other, never stopped being together. Spencer's drinking continued. He'd go on benders, disappear for days. Kate would find him, bring him home, clean him up, put him to bed. No judgment, no lectures, just love, just care, just being there. Again and again, for 25 years. Kate's career continued. She was unstoppable, film after film, play after play, success after success. But Spencer was her priority, always. She turned down roles to be with him, turned down opportunities, chose him over career, over ambition, over everything, because he needed her, and she loved him, and that was enough. As they got older, Spencer's health declined. His drinking had taken its toll. His heart was weak. His body was breaking down. By the 1960s, he was sick. Really sick. Kate knew. Everyone knew. But Spencer wanted to work. Needed to work. The work gave him purpose. Meaning. Life. In 1967, they made their final film together, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, about an interracial couple meeting their parents, Sidney Poitier and Katharine Hepburn, Kate's niece. It was progressive, important, beautiful, and Spencer was dying. Everyone knew it. You could see it on screen. The frailty, the exhaustion, the knowledge that this was goodbye. Director Stanley Kramer scheduled all of Spencer's scenes for morning, when he had the most energy. Kate hovered, worried, protective, making sure he was okay, making sure he could do this last film, this last performance, this last gift. Chapter 5. Goodbye. June 10th, 1967. Early morning, Kate's house in Los Angeles. Spencer woke up, got out of bed. Kate heard him moving around, called out, asked if he was okay. He said yes, just going to make some coffee. She started to get up. He told her to stay, to rest. He was fine, just needed coffee. He'd bring her some. He went to the kitchen, put the kettle on, and his heart gave out. Just like that. Massive heart attack. He collapsed, died almost instantly, 67 years old, gone, after 25 years together, after 9 films, after countless dinners and arguments and quiet evenings, after everything, gone. Kate found him, lying on the kitchen floor. She knew immediately, called for help anyway, but she knew. Spencer was gone, the love of her life, her partner, her person, gone. She couldn't be there when the authorities came, couldn't be there when the press arrived, couldn't acknowledge publicly what everyone knew privately, that she'd loved him, that they'd been together, that he'd died in her house, in their home, because officially he was Louise's husband. Louise had to be notified first. Louise had to claim the body. Louise had to be the widow. Even though Kate was the one who'd loved him for 25 years, who'd taken care of him, who'd been there every day for everything. So Kate left, went out the back, let Louise have her moment, her recognition, her place in history as Spencer Tracy's wife. It was the least Kate could do, the most gracious thing, the right thing, even though it hurt, even though it was unfair, even though Kate wanted to scream that he was hers, had been hers, for 25 years. But she didn't. She left and let Louise mourn publicly, while Kate mourned privately, alone as always. The funeral was a Catholic service. Spencer would have wanted that, needed that, even though he'd sinned, even though he'd lived in adultery for 25 years, even though he'd broken his vows. He'd never stopped being Catholic, never stopped believing, never stopped hoping for forgiveness. Kate didn't attend. It would have been inappropriate, scandalous. She was the other woman, the mistress. She had no place there. So she stayed home, mourned alone, said her own goodbye, in her own way, without ceremony, without witnesses, just Kate and her grief and her memories. After Spencer died, Kate kept working, made more films. The Lion in Winter, won her 3rd Oscar, then on Golden Pond, won her 4th. She was in her 70s by then, still magnificent, still Katharine Hepburn, still unstoppable. But she never loved anyone else, never wanted to. Spencer had been it. Her great love, her only real love, 25 years together. She lived another 36 years after Spencer died in 2003 at 96 years old, outlived him by decades, worked almost until the end, made films, wrote books, gave interviews, was Katharine Hepburn, legend, icon, rebel, right until the very end. And when she talked about Spencer, which she rarely did, her voice would soften, her eyes would get distant, and you'd see it. The love, still there, still alive, still real. After all those years, after all that time, she'd loved him, and he'd loved her, and that was enough. And that's where we'll leave them. Kate and Spencer. On that soundstage in January 1942, meeting for the first time. I'm afraid I'm a little too tall for you, Mr. Tracy. Don't worry, Miss Hepburn. I'll cut you down to size. The beginning of everything. What they created together changed cinema. 9 films, each one a masterpiece of chemistry, of 2 equals sparring, loving, being real. Before them, screen romances were about domination, about the man taming the woman, or the woman reforming the man. But Kate and Spencer, they showed something different. 2 people equal, neither diminished, neither changed, just choosing each other, respecting each other, being partners. Adam's Rib showed a marriage where both people were brilliant, successful, stubborn. And that was okay. They didn't have to agree, didn't have to merge into one, could fight and love and still be themselves. Pat and Mike showed a woman being athletic, capable, strong, and the man supporting her, being proud of her, not threatened, not diminished, just proud. These were revolutionary ideas. Their on-screen partnership influenced every romantic comedy that came after, every film about equals, about partnerships, about love that doesn't require sacrifice of self. You can draw a direct line from Kate and Spencer to every modern romantic comedy where the leads actually like each other, respect each other, are friends as well as lovers. That's their legacy. That's what they gave cinema. Kate's career outlasted Spencer's by 36 years. She kept working, kept achieving, won 2 more Oscars after his death, The Lion in Winter at 61. on Golden Pond at 74. The oldest person to win Best Actress, she proved that women could age, could remain relevant, could be interesting, powerful, desirable even, not despite age, but because of it, because of experience, wisdom, survival, life lived fully. She changed what was possible for actresses. Before Kate, you were done at 35, 40 if you were lucky. You played mothers, grandmothers, but Kate kept playing leads, complex characters, women with agency, with opinions, with fire. Into her 70s, she proved it could be done, paved the way for every actress who came after, who didn't want to disappear, who had more to say, more to give, more to be. And she did it on her own terms, wore pants when women didn't, spoke her mind when women shouldn't, refused marriage when society demanded it, chose her own path, her own life. She was called difficult, complicated, impossible, but she was also called brilliant, talented, irreplaceable, because she was all of those things. And she never apologized for any of it. Spencer's legacy is different but equally profound. He represented a new kind of masculinity, not the swashbuckler, not the tough guy, not the romantic lead, but a regular man. Flawed, real, human. He made vulnerability masculine, made ordinariness heroic, made being a good man, an honest man, a struggling man, worthy of attention, of admiration, of love. Every actor who came after who wasn't conventionally handsome, who was character-driven rather than leading man perfect, who showed weakness, doubt, humanity, they owe something to Spencer Tracy. Their secret relationship, once scandalous, once hidden, now seems almost quaint, innocent even, by today's standards. But at the time, it was radical. Kate choosing to be with a married man, Spencer unable to divorce. Both of them living this life, this secret life, for 25 years. It showed that love doesn't always fit society's rules, doesn't always look like it should. But that doesn't make it less real, less valid, less worthy. The fact that Hollywood protected their secret, that the press knew but didn't report it, that colleagues understood and accepted, that's old Hollywood, for better and worse. The code, the understanding, what happened in private stayed private. Stars were allowed to be human, to have complicated lives, without being destroyed for it. There's something to be said for that, for privacy, for understanding, for letting people be messy, complicated, real. When Kate died in 2003, at 96, she'd lived through almost the entire 20th century, seen cinema born, grow up, change completely. She'd been part of it, shaped it, left her mark on it, indelibly. 4 Oscars, dozens of films, a life lived fully, on her own terms, until the very end. At her memorial, people spoke about her strength, her independence, her talent, her fire, but they also spoke about Spencer, always, because you couldn't talk about Kate without talking about Spencer. He was woven into her story, into her life, into everything she was, even 36 years after his death. He was still there, still part of her, still mattering. That's love, not the kind that ends with death, but the kind that continues, that shapes you, that becomes part of who you are, forever. Kate loved Spencer, and Spencer loved Kate. And that love, that choice, that partnership, it lasted beyond death, beyond time, beyond everything. It's still there, in the films, in the stories, in the legacy they left, together. Love doesn't always fit the rules. Success doesn't always come early. The best partnerships are between equals. And legacy. It's about being real, being yourself, changing things for the better, for everyone who comes after. That's what matters. That's what lasts. That's what Kate and Spencer gave us. Forever.